Byron arrived at the Villa Diodati in Switzerland on the shore of Lake Geneva a few months into his European exile. It was June 1817. Shelley and Mary Shelley stayed nearby. Discussions of poetry and radical politics, with slightly depraved behaviour mixed in, was the Diodati regime that summer. Byron was followed out to Switzerland by Claire Clairmont, Mary Shelley's half-sister, like Mary, only 17, but only 16 when she began an affair with Byron in England. He made her pregnant there and abandoned her. Lord Byron wrote to his sister that he was trying to abstain from sex in Switzerland, but had to give in when Claire Clairmont, whom he called a little fiend, arrived. I could hardly play the stoic, he said, with someone who had scrambled 800 miles to unphilosophize me. He said he succumbed to Claire for the sake of variety, which is cruel of him and makes you wonder about him. As ever with romanticism, the scenarios of the noble past have unmistakable shades of the stupid present. Throughout the whole summer that Byron stayed here, all around here was surrounded by English tourists peering at the house through binoculars.
If one is on one's own in a private house, not doing any harm to anyone, I don't really see why all these people should wander in and say you're doing something wrong.
Hey, moralising society, get off of Mick's cloud.
Things such as...
It is, of course, Mick Jagger, who we know now as a strange, wrinkly, sex-obsessed old tortoise, but who in the 60s was known as Byronic.
Legal.
The Rolling Stones were outsider rebels, but in modern times being that meant playing at being that. The Stones were only tax exiles, not real exiles. They were insider outsiders, outlaw pets. They went on holiday with Princess Margaret. It doesn't mean their records were bad. Their records only became that when the Stones became a corporate rock act in the 70s. But before that, in the 60s, they were geniuses of rock, who deserved their reputation as Byronic. No one was more clever with words, or sexier with music, or more amusingly wasted and elegant on stage than they were. In Jean-Luc Godard's 1+1, scenes of Black Power revolutionaries are cut in with scenes of the Stones rehearsing Sympathy for the Devil. The film equates the Stones' loose outsiderness with radical politics, and the equation is emphasised by Mick Jagger's Byronic presence. What was different about the Stones' Byronism and Byron's Byronism was that in the 1960s, society was ready for the Stones, whereas in the 1810s, society was about to become Victorian, and it really was shocked by Byron. Of course, at first in the 60s, there were a few ritualistic confrontations with the law, but the Stones would always get let off, be busted for drugs, sent to prison, but then immediately set free, and then praised by the establishment. Cultural badness always gets rewarded in the end, though, whether it's Byron, Burroughs, or the Stones, because it's what they do in their art that's good, unless they go off, which, let's face it, is what the Stones did. Hello? Yeah? Satan? Oh, okay, yeah. How are you? Do you want me to go in that building to pick up your trail? All right, I'll go in now. I feel compelled to obey. I'm under the spell of Aleister Crowley, famous black magic bald guy, the Beast 666. He's entering me now, making me repeat his special greeting to women. May I give you the serpent's kiss? Crowley had a studio above this New York bookshop in 1918. He lived here with a woman who he called the Ape of Thoth. He ate the shit of the Ape of Thoth, which is quite hard to say fast, let alone think about. Hello, which way to the evil incarnate section? Great, thanks a lot. Crowley entered a magic sect, the Order of the Golden Dawn, in 1898 when he was 23. After that, he took the message of Lucifer worldwide.
He went to India and the Himalayas and California and Egypt, all the while refining the art of being a magician. He was a great poet and he was an artist and a good writer, but he never actually had a job as such. He used to get people to give him money simply by the force of his personality. He'd go up to women he didn't know and say, "May I give you the serpent's kiss?" And they would say, "Yeah." And he'd pick up their hands and sink his teeth into their wrists, and they'd go, "Whoa! Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," was his famous phrase. He never actually did anything all that evil. He was a heroin addict and a blasphemer, and he had a dog called Satan, and he famously took 6 spoons of sugar in his tea. His devoted American followers used to send him sugar and silk ties during the Second World War, and he was a womanizer and a manizer who would get people under his spell and perform magic sex acts with them for days on end to try and increase cosmic consciousness.
Crowley's most famous book was The Book of the Law, which he claimed was dictated to him by a spirit. It was basically sermonizing on behalf of darkness, which Crowley thought was lightness, Lucifer, the bringer of light. That was Crowley's appeal in a still Victorian time to romanticism, to the irrational, the deviant and the extreme. Crowley's scare style was peculiar to him because he was very stylish, but his scare content anyone could choose now, just as a lifestyle option. Crowley really was a spiritual guy, but there's something anarchy about the cult of Crowley. I remember once I was in an off-licence in London, and I laughed when the price came up on the cash register. 666, bing! The number of the beast. And then I groaned inwardly, and a voice behind me piped up, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." This is Aleister Crowley's magic stick, carved by himself, decorated with faces of malignant intelligences. His stick's still here, and his spirit is still here. Crowley died in obscurity, but since his death in 1947 in a Hastings boarding house, he really has become what he always claimed he was, a hell of a holy guru. Oh, it's the sound of Satan's hooves in my skull, or the sound of Coil, a band of synthesizer playing Aleister Crowley followers. They make pop promos and advertising jingles, and they're interested in the occult. Formed in 1984, Coil have issued a steady stream of albums with titles like Scatology, How to Destroy Angels, and Anal Staircase. Their motto is ritual music for the accumulation of male sexual energy. I've been invited to tea with Coil at their house. It's only going to be nettle tea because their bodies are sacred and they'd never abuse them.
Culture almost rewards evil, or rewards bad behaviour, or rewards something a bit sort of over the top in the dark direction. People need somebody to do that stuff for them.
And they say, okay, we'll have a certain allowance of evil people, and they'll be with, oh look, he's evil, he's evil.
Iggy Pop, Lord Byron,
Charles
Marquis de Sade,
Charles Manson, Marilyn Manson, Eminem.
Coil.
Coil.
That's it. 10 will do.
Yeah, and we've chosen them, and now because we're too scared to be evil, we'll buy bits of evil from them, i.e. our records or our artworks or Damien Hirst's artworks. You know, they're buying artifacts from the artists who dare to live what they dare not live.
Well, these are the charmingest occultists you could ever imagine. Something about embracing the dark side nowadays. It's very close to embracing the light side in the Christian days. Rather than malignant intelligences, Coil are like lovely aunties who've had me round to tea. And yet, here is one of their artefacts, an album that's almost entirely devoted to a very well-known taboo.
Why is there shit in your art form, in your idea of art? Why does it play such a prominent role?
I shit every morning. You know, it's manure. It's as sacred to me as blood or piss or shit or spunk or tears or anything. My body is sacred. You know, I'm not just a piece of meat.
It's part of basically the Christian way of thinking is to abhor certain bodily functions. All bodily functions to a greater or lesser extent, and it's just crap.
We're not scared to get our hands dirty.
I mean,
we're not scared to do with blood and shit.
Any intense
and everything, and mental states, strange mental states.
Any intense spiritual organisation or a spiritual school of learning apart from Christianity, you'll find that monks and so on go through extended periods of living amongst dead bodies and studying those things, studying the decay.
Why is Christianity so concerned to be washing its hands all the time?
Because it's about denial of responsibility.
I want to shake people out of their existence, out of the complacency and the fact that they may think that they know everything because they don't. And whatever that takes, we will do it. Huge loud noises and strobe lights going off for 15 minutes, so people are absolutely terrified.
Coyle's extensive library is stocked with books of evil, but for them it's not evil. It's a body of knowledge from which they derive a moral code. In this moral world, evil is a game you play for special consciousness-raising rituals. They have some paintings by Crowley. Here's one of prostitutes in Berlin from 1915. Crowley never studied painting and despised anyone who did. He said when it came to art, he was an old master, since he mostly painted dead souls.
You can divide people who are bad or wicked into two groups. One is those that are doing it, for publicity, and the other is the people that are simply following their own path, regardless of the consequences. Mm-hmm. And Crowley was obviously the latter. The fact of him doing all the things that he did were simply because he believed that was the right thing for him to do.
Once he's given the chance to be Mr. Evil, he pretty much says, okay, I will.
Sure. Well, the option is to say, to wither away and hide. And he was not